If I had a dime for every time Sarah J. Maas wrote the word mate, I would need a bigger piggy bank. Hello, welcome to a review of everything I read in April 2025. This month I will be discussing A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas, A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas, Cursed Boys and Broken Hearts by Adam Sass, and Bad Girls, Sirens, Jezebels, Muderesses, Thieves, and Other Female Villains by Jane Yolen, Heidi E.Y. Stemple, and Rebecca Guay. Let's get to it! The third book in the Akotar series, A Court of Wings and Ruin, starts with Feyre back at the Spring Court, plotting to tear it down from the inside. The book moves through the entire war, showing the Night Court making alliances and enemies, fighting in the war and the aftermath. It includes romance as well, and separate plots for some of the side characters. Things I loved about this book. The first quarter of the book, where Feyre was tearing down the Spring Court from the inside, I felt smart just reading it. The way her mind worked with that was something extraordinary to read. I also loved the coming out scene. It was a love-hate relationship because it was really sweet, but I finished the main series and she's only come out to Feyre. Also, it just didn't feel important. It felt like Sarah J. Maas just knew she needed diversity, so she slipped it in there last minute. Things I hated. A lot of the plot felt flimsy. The plot twists are predictable in the way that they were pretty much all just, everything is perfect, only this one specific thing could ruin this moment, and then the next page is that specific thing happening. Additionally, it didn't feel like any of the characters ever had control of anything. They were always grasping for the reins, but the horse had been trained by someone else. Another thing I hated was every moment of romantic intimacy was spice. I don't hate spice, but it shouldn't be the foundation of a relationship like it was here. It felt repetitive with plot lines just cycling over and over, and the book felt too quick, but it's a 699-page book. I'm not one for long books, but this one somehow felt too short at the same time. My favorite quote is probably, leave this world a better place than how you found it. This scene with the surreal, I don't know how to pronounce that, was one of my favorite parts of the entire book. It was extremely touching, and I'm very glad it was included. A little bonus, there's a review on Goodreads that really stuck with me, and the person said this book says the word mate 202 times. Now, I didn't count it when I was reading, but there is too much of the word mate in this series. They are 100% right about that. All in all, I give this book probably a 4 out of 5 or like 8.5 out of 10. It's pretty good. It's too long, in my opinion, but it does have really good romance and some good lines, and I absolutely adore the side characters in this series. Like Cassian and Azriel, their stories, I love them so much. Our next book, A Court of Frost and Starlight, takes place a few months after the war, showing our characters celebrating winter solstice. It is a simple book, following Feyre as she opens up to new opportunities for her art, as well as Rhys and Cassian, who are trying to take charge in the Illyrian camps. It brings together the characters' romances with the celebration and provides a cozy, quick read. What I loved. This was one of my favorites of the series. I loved how Feyre got to finally explore what she wants from life and make new friends outside of Rhys's friends. The family felt real, and it felt like I was right there with them. I also liked that Feyre got to develop her relationship with Rhys's friends on her own instead of through him like the rest of the series. It was really nice to see her grow personally instead of growing in their relationship. Things I hated, don't have many complaints about this book. It was pretty quick, it was very cozy, like I said. But again, like I said about Wings and Ruin, Feyre and Reason's intimacy is based on spice, and it makes their relationship feel fake. Like if you're coming back from war and the first thing on your mind is spice instead of like, oh my goodness, are you okay? Are you hurt? I don't know, that just doesn't feel right to me. I didn't have a favorite quote. I'm sure there was a line I liked, but I did not write it down because it was a quick read. So, a little bonus, it is really refreshing to have the last book in this series be under 300 pages, especially after the third book being one page away from 700 pages. All of the books in this series were way too long for my liking. And then this one was about the average size of a book, which was wonderful. I finished it so quick because it was just so much shorter than the rest of them, and I love a quick read. Overall, I'd say this was probably a 9.5 out of 10. It was really cozy and intimate, and we got to explore all of the characters a little deeper and their relationships with one another. And I just love the side characters in this book. I love their personalities and their plots, and it was great. And there was the introduction of a new character who I really loved. I don't remember her name, but she was a painter and she worked with Feyre, and that friendship that Feyre made on her own without Rhys, that was great. I absolutely loved seeing Feyre develop. So this is a pretty good book. Really good way to finish a series. Next, we have Cursed Boys and Broken Hearts by Adam Sass. This book follows Grant Rossi, a designer from Chicago who leaves what he knows to go help save the family vineyard. When he was younger, he wished on their vineyard's wishing rose, asking it to help find his true love and rid him of his homosexuality, which did not work as planned. Ever since, he has been cursed to always be dumped. This cycle starting with the very boy who now works the gardens at the vineyard. Surprise! This is a friends to lovers to enemies to lovers romance. This book, I absolutely loved this book. It felt so magical. Every description and scene just held such beauty, and it felt like stepping into an enchanted forest with every chapter. The Grant has this metaphor of beasts and bunnies that was one of my favorite parts of the book. He talks about how because he's so like rough-edged and he's got so many mental health problems, he's a beast, and he doesn't think that anyone can love him because everyone loves bunnies, and beasts just scare away bunnies. And I feel like this and the entire book is something that young queer people especially can just really relate to, that feeling of you can't exist as you are because you're too rough or too jagged for others. This book, like I said, it explores the effects of being queer on mental health, and feeling like you're just not allowed to be who you are. Like Grant wishes on the rose to be straight, which doesn't work. That's not how it works, obviously. But this is a 12-year-old boy who thinks that the only way to find true love is to be what society wants you to be. And I think that's a really powerful message that this book has. Another thing I loved is this book kept to a smaller cast of characters, so we got to really explore all of them. Things I hated, there were little sentences or dialogue throughout that was like, what is happening? Because it was just weird, but honestly, that just made it feel more real, because life isn't perfect. Another thing, how much Grant talked about how hot Ben was. We get it. Chill. And a little bonus, I loved Grant's little villain arc turned into a full-blown mental spiral. It felt so real and reflected things that we've all experienced, but no one ever talks about. This book was definitely a 10 out of 10. Loved the messages and the romance and the little flirting between Grant and Ben. It made me giggle, it made me smile, it made me fall in love, and I would definitely read it again. Lastly, we have Bad Girls by Jane Yolen, Heidi E.Y. Stemple, and Rebecca Guay. This book is nonfiction with graphic novel aspects. It retells stories of famous women who defied what people expected from them, and it tells their real life story, but it makes you feel like you're reading a fairy tale, and I love that about it. I am not a nonfiction lover. I find it hard to get into a lot of times, but the way that these authors wrote this book made it really easy to understand and get into the story, which was 100% amazing, great, loved it. Some more things I loved. These were women who were going against what is expected of them, which is usually seen as the villain in the story, right? Like, that's what society says. If you aren't what society wants you to be, then you're automatically a villain, especially if you're a woman. But this book shows their story without bias. It tells the story for what it is or for what we know of it and doesn't try to place them under guilt. It leaves it up to the reader whether they were in the right or not. And I think this is so important because so many people are judged with bias, or the story is told from the enemy's perspective and that's all we know of it. But Jane Yolen and Heidi Stemple really bring it down to the bare what happened, and that was great. Another thing I loved, it was nonfiction, but it's told as individual mini stories, so it's super easy to read, which, as I already said, it's great. I struggle with nonfiction. This book worked for me, though. And some things I hated, whether to fit more stories in or just from lack of record, there weren't many details included. I would have loved to read more on every single person in this book. However, there is an extensive list of resources and further reads included, so I don't have much to hold against the book. Favorite quote: "A strong leader is considered a wrong leader when that leader is female." This book really explores how society views powerful women and how it puts them into this box of, if you're powerful and a woman, you're bad. You're a villain, you're evil. It kind of tears down those beliefs, and I love that. Bonus, the illustration in this book has my heart. It is absolutely beautiful and portrays the women as powerful instead of evil. All in all, this book was really good. I will definitely be reading it again because I do not remember most of the stories because I'm not a nonfiction person, but it was absolutely wonderful. 10 out of 10. That concludes my April 2025 reading review. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed these reviews, and comment below what I should read next. Bye!